yes, I don't want to make Don Lemon this martyr for this progressive cause, and he's fighting against the fascists and the evil Donald Trump. I do think that it is also incumbent on the Trump administration and the Trump DOJ to set a precedent to tell leftists and progressives, hey, we're not going to tolerate this. And the more that we acquiesce enforcing the law that is in place and punishing people who agitate and hurt people or firebomb buildings and things like that, the more that we acquiesce and say, okay, we're going to stick to decorum. We don't want to, if we do it, like, imagine if they'll do it against us. Like, I just don't think we're in a place in America anymore where we can kind of stick to those utopian ideals and this vague abstractions of principles when they're literally killing us and they're shooting us and they're celebrating it and they're bombing us, and it's like, and nothing happens because, oh no, it's fascism to arrest these people. And so I think it is really incumbent on the Trump administration to say, no, we're going to have an end to this, and all your leftist antics, your violent agitations and all these things, we're not going to tolerate anymore. And we need more of that like heavy hand for like Trump to rule with the iron fist. They'll call him a fascist no matter what. No matter what he does, he's going to be a Nazi, he's going to be evil Hitler. So if they're going to call you that no matter what, the progressives are going to call you that no matter what. It is incumbent on Trump, I believe, and the DOJ to go and enact justice to protect those who are truly most vulnerable.
Does it matter if they fail to convict and are only able to indict these people?
Like, what do you mean, like, does it matter?
Again, he might not end up being convicted, but if he's indicted, he has to go through and charged. He needs to go through the entire process. If you're indicted, same again with James Comey, Tish James. If you're indicted, you still need to defend yourself, even if you aren't convicted.
Right.
And that process is the punishment in many ways. So, it's not the way the criminal justice system was set up. It wasn't meant to be that, we're just indicting somebody and therefore you are guilty. You are innocent until proven guilty, but then you still need to hire a lawyer, go through the process, be stressed out about being investigated by the DOJ. All your shit's probably being stared at by, intelligence agencies and whatnot.
Right, but if the indictment's the point and there's no conviction, then what's the point? It's like...
The process is the punishment.
Right, but it's still like political theater at the end of the day, and like I'm just kind of sick of political theater.
I think to your point, a lot, if they fail to get a conviction, I think that people are going to look at the Trump administration as weak. I think that's already the kind of the base of the right wing. They're already upset with the Trump administration. They're not doing deportations fast enough. Trump's not doing this, not doing that. I think that if they fail to get a conviction, it's going to be actually bad for the administration.
Right, I wanted to follow. I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted to follow up on the SAVE Act and get these specific details here because I think it's really pertinent to what we're talking about. So a Catholic priest who blocked access to a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic could face up to 1 year in prison after being found guilty Monday of violating the FACE Act. On the morning of July 7th, 2022, Father Fidelis McKinsky, 52, a priest of a Church of Renewal, effectively shut down a Planned Parenthood in Greater New York in the town of Hempstead, according to the DOJ. He placed locks and chains on the gated entrance and covered some of them with glue, and that prevented anybody from getting through the gate and then accessing their pre-planned health care. Not even all of these were for abortions. I believe he was convicted and then eventually pardoned. I know you're sympathetic to the pro-life cause. Despite that, do you think he should have been charged based on the actions that he took?
I mean, the reality is we live in a nation, and if we live in a nation with laws, we have to enforce those laws. I don't believe in lawlessness, and if we want to reform if we have unjust laws, then we need to repeal those laws. We can't have vigilantism and things.
Well, he'd be charged on this.
Right. So
and I just also think it wasn't just these guys standing outside. They may have been arrested, but the people who were charged outside of these Planned Parenthoods were doing more than just standing around and trying to talk to people who were going in. They were gluing and locking these doors shut.
Well, they were saving babies, but I'm not endorsing it. I'm not endorsing those methods.
No, but if you are sympathetic to that cause, then hypothetically, you would say those protests are justified. Again, people protest around the country all the time, and their actions, people, I feel like, view them as justified whether or not they're sympathetic to the cause.
Yeah, of course. But the difference is like we're right and they're wrong.
Totally.
So, and I guess that's why politics is so difficult in this country, because we don't operate from the same moral framework, not even like a semblance of a similar moral framework where the left wants to kill babies no matter what. The right is this amalgamation of different actions of like pro-choice, but not until birth, and then pro-life, and then like really anti-abortion, and just like different people exist in the right wing, but the commonality among the right wing is that they love this country and they love America, whereas the left wants to like burn it all down. And so I think that's why it's very difficult to have any sort of political conversation in this country with those who disagree with us from right versus left. But also, I think it's very important then for us to understand why it's very, very dangerous for the left to get political power again. Because once they wield political power, they'll regardless of whether or not Don Lemon is convicted, they'll use his indictment, they'll use this whole process to say, we're going to go after Trump. And we're going to go after Trump supporters and conservatives and things like that. And so it is very important. This is where I don't really agree with a lot of the people on the right who are, you know, the dissident right, who are like, oh, let's just let it all burn. Just let the Democrats win. Well, no, I don't want to see my fellow Christians and my fellow conservatives and my patriots locked up like they were in January 6th with like hundreds of grandmas in solitary confinement.
And to your